Welcome to Disrupt the Flow. Today is our inaugural podcast and we are very excited to get this going, the first of many to come. I'm your host Neha, a former Azure supply chain leader and a Boston Consulting Group consultant. I have with me Julian, who was a partner at McKinsey for the supply chain strategy, and he drove a lot of projects in the domain from strategy to execution. Julian, please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Neha. Super exciting to create this community with you. Today, we're going to start with the sustainability imperative in supply chain. We'll discuss the importance of having a well-crafted sustainability strategy, along with the specific examples of the capabilities that supply chain companies require in order to drive impact for the bottom line. For this, we're thrilled to welcome Gloriana Aguilar. Gloriana and I met many years ago while working at McKinsey, and I was blown away with the value outcomes that she achieved when working with our clients. Gloriana is a sustainability leader helping consumer-facing companies turn their sustainability commitments into competitive advantage. With 15 plus years of experience across industry, nonprofits, and recently management consulting, she brings expertise in sustainability strategy, decarbonization, resource efficiency, and climate risk assessment. Welcome, Gloriana. Before we get into the sustainability topic, what do you enjoy doing when you're not thinking about sustainability?
Hey, Neha. Hi, Julian. Very honored to be here as one of your first guests. When I'm not working in sustainability, you can find me traveling the world that I'm working very hard to protect. I've been to close to 50 countries in around 5 continents. Other than that, I'm an avid animal lover, a skincare and beauty enthusiast.
That is amazing. Thank you so much for joining us today, Gloriana. One of the first things that our audience must be thinking, why does sustainability even matter? Why is that the first topic that we want to talk about? Well, did you know that according to the Paris Agreement, the world needs to remove 100 to 200 billion tons of carbon dioxide in total? Cost of this, more supply chain disruptions and cost of fixing it, and additional increase in climate events. Now, none of us wants that. Gloriana, thank you for joining us to educate all of us on why this matters and the cost of supply chain implications. Why should every supply chain leader care about sustainability?
Sustainability is no longer nice to have. It's actually business imperative. Across any sectors, across every industry, there's a part of it that is affected by sustainability, from supply chain disruption from natural events to reduce in yield crop across consumer goods and agricultural companies, to changes in consumer and even employee preferences. Regardless in which industry you play, there's a role in which sustainability is relevant for you.
Perfect. Thank you, Gloriana. And if I'm thinking about the strategy, what are the key components that need to be part of that these days?
Like with every strategy, you need to be clear what is your business objective and what are your ambitions. In sustainability, we use the concept of double materiality, which means that it needs to affect both your financial bottom line, but also the environment that is around it. So we need to measure your outcomes and your impacts across these two areas. Once you're clear on what is your ambition as a company, you also need to set up what is your baseline and what is the gap that you need to bridge to get to your objective. Then you need to develop a pipeline of initiatives, prioritize based on your appetite and whatever resources you have available. And of course, you need to track towards progress.
Okay, interesting. And then what are the key metrics that you're seeing companies set up as part of these strategies?
Well, 2024 was the year of regulations, for sure, with Europe taking the charge with CSRD, which will affect pretty much every company that is making business in Europe. So based on that, companies need to report their financial progress as well as their environmental and social impact. With this, we're seeing trends as carbon being one of the biggest topics that is present, but also about usage in different resources, from water to other resources available.
That is
Excellent.
amazing, Gloriana. And I was also very excited to hear the use of words bottom line growth along with sustainability. From my time in supply chain, I remember how important it was to put a hard number against the goals we were taking. How do you encourage the executives to think about translating their sustainability strategy into the bottom line growth impact that they can commit to?
I love that question, Neha, because at the end of the day, sustainability strategy is corporate strategy. And the key to be successful is to match our ambitions to our company's DNA and our essence, to make it not only appropriate to whatever business area, industry we're operating, but it makes it authentic to the company. And also remember that, like with every strategy that we're looking to roll out, resources are limited. So we need to focus on what in actions are going to bring the best return of investment based on the resources that we have available. At the end of the day, if we distill what type of initiatives are we leading with sustainability, are very intimately related to efficiencies. For example, let's think if we are able to optimize the packaging on the product, we're reducing materials. We might be able to stack more units per pallet, so we're also reducing transportation costs, warehousing costs, et cetera, which will impact our bottom line in a positive way. Another good example is if we dive into circular economy with different materials that we can reuse, we save money by reducing some purchasing orders. But let's think of fashion, for example. If we open a secondhand store like stores like Patagonia, Lululemon has done, we're also attracting additional consumers that maybe they weren't buying our product at the original price point, but a different one can be more attractive. So we're also increasing our market share. So by pairing our ambitions as a company with how can we impact the environment with our actions, we're also impacting the bottom line.
And Gloriana, I mean, technology is a part of everything these days, right? It's helping make processes more efficient across basically all industries. So if you think about sustainability, what are some of the technologies that you're seeing being rolled out, and how can companies in general use those technologies better to achieve the goals that they set out?
Yeah, sure. One of the areas that brings the more burden to sustainability is the reporting part. Because as you can imagine, is company-wide, as the company grows, the number of suppliers moves from a couple of hundreds to the millions. So definitely this is an area that can benefit quite a bit in terms of with technology. Definitely we can also leverage different optimization algorithm to optimize our overall process. And not only utilities for emissions, but also material use, route optimization, prediction, like overall there, and quite a bit of number of use cases that technology can definitely empower sustainability.
Yeah, I agree. And when we work together especially in energy, for example, a lot of manufacturing plants spend a lot of energy and just adding some initial visibility and transparency into the usage. We found that drove a lot of reduction into the energy. So certainly a lot that can be done that doesn't necessarily need to be super complex.
Do we have a sense of the resourcing needs, and how does organization think of staffing and resourcing right to tackle problems around sustainability?
So the sustainability area, I would say, is the newest function to come to the C-suite. So teams are still relatively small compared to their counterparts in other departments, let's say marketing, finance, operations, etc. So these teams tend to be small. So we need to have our allies across the whole organization, because sustainability is an all hands on deck effort. So we need to have support from the different ambassadors in order to make sure this different company-wide initiatives are taken to fruition. Additional to that, one of the strongest trends from 2024 that is continuing forward is the birth of the fractional professional. We're seeing fractional CSOs or fractional Chief Sustainability Officers. I've seen these trends across communications, across marketing. So a lot of companies are using this trend to have a professional that might be supporting, let's say, 2 to 3 companies in different industries or even the same industry to fill their needs. And of course, another great avenue is partnering with different advisors or consultants for specific areas, either because they don't have the resourcing, the expertise, or the time to deliver those answers.
That is very neat. I like the idea of fractional because in many ways it gets you started without committing. And once you see the results, it's easier to augment the team. From a capability standpoint, Gloriana, is it like a specialized capability, or can leaders start thinking about the teams in-house from the capabilities that already exist within supply chain? Is it a specialist function, or is it more horizontal to all the functions that the team already has staffing for?
That is a tricky answer. I would say yes and no. 15 years ago, we wouldn't be having this conversation. So right now, the sustainability leaders don't necessarily come from all sustainability backgrounds. In some cases, they started in marketing or finance or legal or even operations like myself. And over some period of time, they managed to obtain the upscale to different pathways, either from certifications, masters, on-the-job experience, etc. But also we're seeing a trend of new professionals entering the workforce, coming already equipped with a sustainability degree. So I would say today is a mix of both. Likely in the next 10 to 15, we're seeing it more of leaning towards professionals that have dedicated a whole career to this area.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
That's fascinating, and I think it highlights the importance of cross-functional collaboration to get this done, right?
It's very important to have a mix of skill set. It's not only core technical knowledge, but also having understanding how the business itself works. Because as I said before, we need these initiatives to be authentic to the business. So let's say we're in pulp and paper, which is a very water-intensive industry. Of course, we need to address water versus, let's think of the tech giants, Microsoft, Apple, etc. A lot of their conversation is around emissions because they're service-based. That's where they emit. So we need to understand how the core business of the organization operates, so we can do what is called a materiality assessment to basically understand what are the hot areas for sustainability that we need to address. And at the same time, you need to be able to convince your peers that this is relevant. And this is where the knowledge how a business operates, how to calculate returns of investments, how to embed sustainability into the overall company's strategy comes to fruition.
Excellent. And Gloriana, what are 2 companies that you would think are basically case studies for doing sustainability well and getting the dual impact that you mentioned at the beginning? And why do you think they were successful?
There's several. There's a couple ones that I particularly really like. I'm a big fan of 𝗵𝗲𝗄, brand of sneakers, that from inception, they came with a mission of creating a product that is sustainable. So even from design, material selection to workforce compensation, they took into account. It's a brand that does not do a lot of marketing. They were very strategic in the way they advertised and became almost like a cult favorite and became known as the trendy, sustainable sneaker. So they're disrupting in this way, similar to what Allbirds did a few years before that. That is in the consumer space. Another brand that I find very interesting is Microsoft. Bill Gates has been a heavy clean tech investor for some time now, and his commitment is to remove every single gram of carbon dioxide that they have put into the atmosphere since 1975 when he started the company. So they have been carbon neutral for some time, powering their offices with solar, wind, etc. But now they wanted to take it to the next level with targeted offsets and investment in clean tech, as well as using new technology like carbon removal to make sure they become fully carbon neutral going forward.
That is amazing. I also remember from my time at Microsoft, there was a lot of focus and continues to be on building circular data centers of future, continuously thinking about
Good
sustainability.
to hear, and that was also a testament that is a company that is fully committed. As I said before, this is an all hands on deck. So you need to bring your full workforce on part for you to achieve this very ambitious target.
Gloriana, thank you so much for talking about those few role models, if I may. It's very interesting you bring that up because as a consumer, I'm very much educated on not wanting plastic bags anymore, but paper bags. And that's because there's so much of awareness driven around implications of using plastic bag and the laws that government puts out there, especially in California. They're very strict about enforcing this. I'm guessing a little bit of the role here is at certain stage of government regulations and
It's a
mandate.
combination of efforts coming from every stakeholders. Government is supposed to be leading the way from a regulatory point of view. And currently we have Europe leading the way, closely followed by other geographies like Australia, Canada, etc. Here in the US, I would say who is leading the way is California, who has done a tremendous effort approving different local regulations last year that would indirectly affect every single US-based company that has business in California. Okay, so that is the role of government. Corporations, they also have the role of, as you said, educating their consumers in terms of the impact of the product that you're buying is not only the price that we paid. Like, for example, there's a really famous company that I would not name that is famous for selling extremely cheap piece of clothing coming from China. So it's important for us to understand that the cost of the good is not only the few dollars that we're paying for the item, but also the environment is paying part of the price. There's some labor implications. Let's not forget the social sustainability is very embedded to environmental sustainability. So we as consumers will also need to do our due diligence and understand what are the implications of pretty much everything we're consuming.
Interesting. I'm putting myself in the shoes of so many chief supply chain officers there, and I can only imagine how excited I am to, at this stage, get a project going. Where do I start? Where do all our chief supply chain officers get started to think about an MVP to prove the value and scale from there?
Mm-hmm. Well, let's define what is the goal, what is the target, and where we stand today, so you can have a clear view what is the gap that you need to overcome. We need to set up goals that are ambitious based on our organization, but at the same time, they are achievable. So once again, based on the size of my team, based on the budgets that I have available, where am I going to get the best or the biggest impact, both from a financial but also environmental point of view. So having a clear view. Depending on the size of the organization, to fully transform your company is going to cost you very likely in the billions. To some extent, there's existing technology that we can apply today. There's existing technology right now that is proof of concept that we need to scale. And there's technology that we likely need to invent in the next few years. So let's focus on what can we do today to start moving the needle with the resources that are available, and continue to plan forward to execute the different actions as technology becomes available.
Sustainability strategy is corporate strategy, right? So if you're a supply chain leader that is studying on this, you need to make sure that you're engaging the whole company and getting inputs on what is possible, right? And jointly identifying the value. I think that's a key concept that resonated with me. I think as we wrap this up, maybe what are the top 3 books that you would recommend for the leaders that are thinking about this topic?
Sure. There's a couple I really like. I just finished reading Speed and Scale, which represents a roadmap of the different changes that needs to happen across different industry, from transportation, food, utilities, etc. And it highlights what are the investments that happen now, which ones needs to be scaled, and what we need funding to develop, and what is the different roles that government, VC, private equity, consumer can have to solve the climate crisis by 2050. Really enjoyed that one. Additional, Climate Capitalism. This one highlights how climate change is actually a great opportunity for business to embrace it and develop different business modules, and highlights pretty much an example across each area, from CCUs to emerging technologies in cement and steel. So definitely really interesting. Is definitely the last 10 years had been prime time to invest and work on clean tech. And finally, one for me that is a classic, and at least is the book that opened my mind to sustainability, that is An Inconvenient Truth by former Vice President Al Gore.
Excellent. Thank you for all the insights today, Gloriana. Any final words on this topic as we wrap up?
Well, sustainability is a fascinating topic, but we are all part of the problem or part of the solution, either from a consumer point of view, as executives, as government officials. We all have a role. So let's embrace this challenge. Definitely is the biggest challenge our generation needs to overcome, but I'm pretty confident that we can meet and rise to the challenge.
Thank you, Gloriana. This was amazing. If this conversation sparked new ideas for you, please follow Gloriana on her LinkedIn. The link is in the comments below. We will also put the references to any books, podcasts, and interesting reads that can help you get started that Gloriana shares with us in the comments below. And this is one of the many more to come. Thank you, Gloriana, for being with us and starting the journey with the topic that a lot of supply chain leaders are just starting to think about and has not hit the prime time of crisis for them. So it's a great topic to get started and set the tone to be preventive right from the beginning. Thank you for joining us, and all of our guests, please stay tuned for many more interesting conversations to follow.
Thank you, Julian. Thank you, Neha. It was a pleasure to be here. And for everybody listening, please follow this amazing podcast.
Thank you.